Welcome to an encore presentation of The Obligation, featuring a conversation I had with Father Colin Blatchford from Courage International and Dr. Ray Guarendi during our Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon pledge drive, which runs through July. From all of us at the Carolina Catholic Media Network, we wish you a safe and happy 4th of July. Warning. The radio broadcast you're about to hear was made by men and for men. It may at times seem a little rough around the edges, brash, and certainly not canonically approved by papal authority. But its content may indeed challenge you to become the man, father, husband God has called you to be. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome back to the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon Pledge Drive, coming to you live from the Carolina Catholic Media Network studio on North Tryon Street in Charlotte, North Carolina. Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon Pledge Drive is taking place today. We're wrapping up on the Feast of the Sacred Heart. Such a great timing and blessing. Again, phone number to call in or donate is 1-800-857-2909, and donations can be made online at carolinacatholicmedia.org. My name is Jason Murphy. I'm the host of the Obligation radio show here, playing each week on Fridays at 5. And we have a special guest coming on to join us for this hour. We've been broadcasting since Wednesday, and we will wrap up this evening at 6 p.m., raising money for Carolina Catholic Media to continue providing Catholic content throughout the Charlotte surrounding areas. We have a guest with us today who has been on my show a couple of times. We've talked. He has local ties here with parents currently living in Charlotte. He is the oldest of 10 children, ordained a priest in the Diocese of Knoxville in 2014. He served as a parochial vicar of the Basilica of Saints Peter and Paul in Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is now the Associate Director of Courage International in Trumbull, Connecticut. Courage is an approved apostolate of the Catholic Church that counsels men and women with same-sex attraction in living chaste lives in fellowship, truth, and love. Courage members are men and women who experience same-sex attractions who have made a commitment to strive for chastity. They're inspired by the gospel call to holiness and the Catholic Church's beautiful teachings about the goodness and inherent purpose of human sexuality. Through Courage, people who experience same-sex attraction receive pastoral support in the form of spiritual guidance, community prayer, support, and fellowship. Without further ado, I'd like to bring Father Colin Blatchford back on. Father Colin, good to see you today. How are you?
Good morning. It's good to see you as well, Jason. I'm doing very well.
That's great.
Been on the road for a couple weeks, and now I'm kind of settling back in at home. So it's good to sit down and talk to you today.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. Been so much going on. In our world, in our church, and of course, there's these murmurs we've been hearing, and maybe we'll hear them today that Roe versus Wade might be reversed by the Supreme Court justices on the Feast of the Sacred Heart. We'll continue praying, and if not today, we'll continue that prayer. But many things going on. In a world that's seemingly lost, yet one of the greatest tragedies going on in our world. Abortion, the potential. Out of nowhere, it seems that that this may be overturned, and our Lord, of course, always triumphs. But speaking of all the things going on in our world and all the mixed messages we get and things, we're in the month of June. Of course, we know as Catholics it's the month of the Sacred Heart. But the world will have us believe that is the month of Pride, Pride Month. And I thought, let's get straight to the authority on this, as far as a ministry to those who experience same-sex attractions and are working to conform their lives to Christ and the gospel. We thought, as your association, your ministry with Courage, you could help enlighten us. How does the Catholic Church perceive that? As far as Pride Month, let's get into it and hear what the Church says.
Sure. Well, I think first, before we can sort of speak to what the church says about Pride Month, first we have to understand where Pride Month kind of comes from. The first sort of pride parades and such started in large cities in the late 60s. The most famous, I think it's called Stonewall. It was in 69 in New York, when some police came to a gay bar and kind of arrested and broke things up, and there's fighting and people and rioting, and the individuals at the bar were treated very poorly, and so it started as a response to witnessing the police treating them with a lack of human dignity, which, when we look at what the church teaches, the church is 100%, on the side of supporting human dignity, right? Absolutely. That we are created in the image and likeness of God, that we have to be treated that way, right? That we can't be persecuted, and especially not, physically and verbally abused for it. That's, in fact, in 1986, responding to many of these sort of outcries about persecution and unfair treatment. The church wrote a letter on the pastoral accompaniment of those with homosexuality. And it says it is deplorable that any should be treated without the respect for their human dignity, and that anybody who cooperates with this is committing a grave sin. Of course. And so, insofar as like this idea that somebody needs to be protected, that the dignity needs to be upheld, we're 100% with it, right? But what's happened very often, we've seen as sort of the pride parades have grown, is there's many with altering. There's many different sort of opinions and agendas when within these groups. Should we support human dignity? Absolutely. Even of people who have same-sex attraction and gender identity disorders? Of course. Does that mean that, we should attend a pride parade? Well, what goes on there? I mean, sometimes it's, there's those who are looking for real sexual license, and, the slogans or the acts and the things that are going on can be very scandalous, especially for children, but even for adults. And so, we have to keep that in mind. And so, like, what does it mean, to support that dignity as opposed to supporting the pride parade, right? And I think it goes back to something you said about, kind of about Pride Month, or maybe it wasn't you. I think Father Bachansky mentioned it in his Pride Month, the Catholic response, which I think we'll include in the show notes. That pride is considered to be one of the deadliest sins, the greatest mother of all sins. That's right. So it's ironic, that they use that, but there's also a sense of indeed we must be proud of our dignity and uphold it, but that cannot therefore become a weapon for license, right? In that I can do as I please, that nothing stands above me. And I just wanted to mention, June indeed is the month of the Sacred Heart, in which we celebrate the fact that, Christ had a human heart, that he experienced the emotions that we experience, that he experienced the longings that we experience for closeness and intimacy with others, for friendship, right? He experienced all these things, and he invites us into that with him. He asks us, right? That's right. To love with his Sacred Heart, to imitate him, yes, in loving even the gravest of sinners wherever they are, and loving them enough to call them forward, right? And Dom Chautard, I think I'm saying that right, Chautard, in the Heart of the Apostolate, yes, says that, any of this activism that we do, any of these acts that we do where we seek to go and bring someone to God as we work as an apostle, right, evangelizing, must come from a deep and abiding interior life, relationship with Christ, especially his Sacred Heart. If we do not, then it will come to nothing. And a great witness to this is the patrons of Courage and Encourage. Our patrons whose feast is celebrated on June 3rd is Charles Lawanga and companions. Okay. Charles Lawanga and Joseph I think I said that right. They were members of King Mwanga's court, squires, if you will, in the late 1800s, 1880, 1885. 1885 is kind of when it all came to a head. But in the court of King Mwanga, the missionaries would come and seek permission, and they couldn't go. This was in Uganda. They couldn't go and just go and preach, but they could preach to the people of the king's court. And so that was most of these young men, somewhere between the ages of like 14 and 30. Okay. And Joseph made sure that the boys were taught the gospel and were living a life of virtue. And he was calling them to virtue, and they were being educated in these things, and they were living very good lives. And the king died, and his son took over, and his son was more antagonistic. King Mwanga, was the son, and he threw the missionaries out. And his major domo, his chancellor, started to point out to the king that the young men of his palace gave homage to God and obeyed him over the king's commands. Okay. And Charles Lwanga and Joseph worked to protect the young men. The king he had a very strong sexual appetite. We might even say nowadays a sexual addiction. And he would try and lure the boys away with gifts and such, and sought homosexual relationships, acts with them. Wow. And Joseph and Charles protected the boys. And the major domo kind of got into the king's ear and said, well, are you the king or are you the king? Right? So about that took a few years after he came to reign. So about 1885, Charles Lwanga, Joseph Debegke, and their companions, of which there are, I think, 18 of them or 20, were killed. And they were killed very brutally. Joseph was chopped to pieces, limb by limb, and left to die in a ditch. Many of them were burned alive. Charles Lwanga was burned alive. He actually asked his executioners if he could arrange the sticks so it would burn better. Wow. And then as he was burned, didn't even cry out except to praise the Lord.
Sounds like St. Lawrence.
Go ahead.
No, it sounds like St. Lawrence. Flip me over. I'm done on this side.
Yeah.
That's great.
And so all of this was around, and there was no hatred in this towards the king or anything. It was just a desire to be virtuous and to protect themselves. And so it's interesting that June sort of became this Pride Month when, in fact, historically we see it's the month of the Sacred Heart. It has been for a very long time. And then you also have Charles Lwanga and companions here at the very beginning of the month, witnessing in Uganda in the late 1800s. Wow. What it means to really and truly live the faith, even in the face of being persecuted. And that's something that we have to remember while we're in the midst of Pride Month as Catholics. We have to be able to be clear in the teachings of the church with charity, yes. Right? Great charity. If we don't have charity when we're doing these things, right? If we don't have kindness, then we're not really giving the truth.
Just a tinkling symbol, right?
Yeah. Because the truth, now those can reject, I shouldn't say we're not giving the truth. We're not giving it in charity, is what I meant to say. We have to do it with kindness. We have to do it with love, because in the context of the church's teaching, the church recognizes the emotions and the history and the experiences that people have had as important to who they are and how they see themselves, but then also says, yes, these are important, and we need to integrate those into who you are as a man, who you are as a woman, and then you need to be a saint. Right.
That's such a beautiful story, and I think that just needs to be told out more so that people understand that, especially for those martyrs in particular and how they relate, with Courage International as well. But I would say there's a lot of people out there. I would say most of secular world believes that Catholics simply hate homosexuals, and I was even in a conversation yesterday. And I was kind of explaining, Courage from that perspective, how they minister. And, they're like, oh, well, that's horrible. So I guess they try to convert or reprogram these people, and that's horrible. How would you answer something? Someone said, oh, is that what Courage does?
Well, no, we don't actually offer any counseling at all whatsoever. Okay. What we do is lived however they've lived, and they come and they say, I have same-sex attraction or gender identity discordance, right? Like I experience these feelings and these desires, but I want to live my faith. That's what they tell us. So we're not saying, oh, you have to go do this or you have to go do that. Right. They've come to me and they've said, I want to live my faith according to what the gospel says. Interesting. I say, well, I'll help you. Yeah. Just as every priest does. Right. And you see what many don't understand is they're not called to anything that anybody else in the church is not called to. Chastity is the integration, according to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the integration, all right, of our sexuality within the person. So what does that mean? Those thoughts, feelings, desires that pertain to being man or a woman, right, which would include sexual desires and lusts, but also the way in which we interact with people, must be healthily and harmoniously integrated within the person so that we can be free, right? If I have a thought that keeps coming into my mind and I can't integrate it into how I'm living, meaning it distracts me from life, it almost impels me or to act in a certain way, right? Then I'm not really free. The person who like myself, right? So I'm kind of a big guy. I struggle with like kettle chips. I love them. I see them. I almost cannot say no.
I like salty over sweet myself.
Yeah. But like I have to work on integrating that, right? Like that's not healthy bodily, right? It's like even the secular world would recognize that we have to be careful about that. But also spiritually, it's not, right? Because I am, in a sense, not even in a sense, I am chained to the kettle chips, right? And I have to enter into mortification to break that chain. Yeah. I have to enter into suffering. I have to recognize that it is not about me. It is not about what I want. It's rather about God's will. And how can I live that out in a healthy, holy, and free manner if I need to leave the chapel to go get some kettle chips, right? Like, now that's extreme, but...
So next time I see you, I need to keep the cake pods away from you, right?
Yeah. But I think it's a good example, because sometimes we forget that a lot of these things are very much what we would call second nature or habituative, right? So the brain, it tries to make things, if you will, mindless, right? Like it wants to integrate the complex actions that are necessary to accomplish a task, feeling good, let's say, into something it doesn't have to think about, right? So for instance, when, first learning how to get dressed, right? When you were little, right? Like that took a while to figure out that, but now, we're both here. We got our shirts on and our pants on, like, and we're groomed. Right. I bet neither of us thought directly about that this morning though, because it's so integrated into who we are. Right. Now, if we do that with virtue, that's fantastic. That's how you become a saint. If we do that with vice, we can start to act in a way that is not in accord with our nature, that seeks out sin. And we don't even sometimes think about it. We don't even realize it, when you stub your toe and swear, right? Like, I don't know where that habit came from. Why do I do this? Well, it came from a habit of being free with our language when certain emotions come up. And then when that emotion comes up, boom, right. Then the language comes. And so I think part of our response to Pride Month, right, can be Charles Luanga and the Sacred Heart, as Don Chachard says in the part of the apostolate, which is to become intentional about those things, right? To make serious mortification that we may be holy. Because if we're holy, and if we understand what the church teaches about sexuality and God's plan for it and sexual pleasure, then we can encounter somebody and we can have the conversation with them that we need to have. And that's not necessarily, well, this is the sexual teaching of the church and you need to abide by it. Yeah. It might just be, hey, how you doing today? I saw that smile on your face. I'm just wondering why you're so happy. You look like a happy guy. Yeah. Who is it that you love? Why do you love them? Do you feel loved? Right? Like it could be any conversation that we have. At that point, we become the instrument of God and we remove ourselves from the equation, and great things can be done.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Once again, my name is Jason Murphy. I'm sitting down with Father Colin Blatchford from Courage International. We are in the midst of the Carolina Catholic Media Network Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon. You can call in now with your donation or pledge at 1-800-857-2909 or go online to carolinacatholicmedia.org. We will take as little or as much as you are able to help keep Catholic content on the air, online, and relevant in the Charlotte and surrounding areas. All donations are tax deductible. Father, so some practical things, because I think this is taboo. Homosexuality with Catholics it just is. It's taboo subject. Especially with the way that the abuses in the church, unfortunately, have been magnified and presented by the media, especially when we know that the percentage of these abuses as compared to other religions is far less, and even in non-religious environments is far less. Not to belittle any of the abuses because they're all horrible, but that being said, some practical things that maybe many Catholics struggle with, or dealing with right now, maybe listening right now and wondering, what if a situation where a child may exhibit certain homosexual tendencies and maybe by chance maybe even begin to act on those. How would a parent handle that? Because I know Courage is not just for those with the attractions; it's also for family and friends, and so support and probably questions like this that would come across. What if a child, decides they want to act on those? A child decides to, engage and then maybe get married, and then a parent is invited to a union of the child and their partner. How? Obviously, the parent loves the child. Obviously, the parent has to take a stance and say, I love you, but I cannot condone, what you're doing. Could a parent go, and I'm sure you've probably heard this question, can a parent go to a wedding or, a union between their child and their partner?
Well,
how would you handle that? What would
yeah.
be a good advice? I know that's a tough one. That's a tough one.
There are a lot of good resources. And, Courage has them on our website, couragerc.org, and you can always call us as well.
Okay.
In relation to the particular question that you asked, as Catholics, we have to uphold the teachings of the Catholic Church, and we can't just do it in the form of kind of a distant neutrality, right? We can't just say, well, it's okay for them, but not for me. We also have to be bold and honest, but we always have to be charitable, right? Again. And so, the parent who's whose child has gone, is living waywardly and has invited them to the civil ceremony, clearly could not go, because we believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and a Catholic who's getting married outside the sacrament, in which case they would here, then we couldn't in good conscience go. But that would also be true for a child who's left the faith, is marrying someone of the opposite sex.
Of course, absolutely.
And is getting married outside the church,
absolutely.
Right? And so we have to keep that in mind. But we also don't want to, I think one of the reasons you said, very often Catholics, how did you phrase it in relation to the teaching?
Taboo and,
taboo, yeah. Well, and I think that comes from the notion that Scripture has given us of the sins that cry out to heaven, right? We don't want to belittle the sins. Like if Scripture says these are sins that cry out to heaven, then we need to ask why. And the church has said it's because it goes against the very nature of who we are. Yeah. So same-sex acts. We're not talking about people here, just the acts, right? Because the church has said that the orientation, the desire for it itself is not sinful. It's merely a thought, right? Sure. It's a suggestion that comes from our fallen nature. And so that itself is not sinful, but to actually pursue the acts. Yes. They work against the very way that God has written into us how love, and marital love in particular, sexual love, is supposed to be expressed. How we're supposed to express ourselves as men and women, it goes against those very principles. And we could have a deeper conversation about that. Yes. And there's some good brochures on Courage's website that kind of talk more about that. But I think that's one of the reasons why it comes up as taboo. But then people forget that, the defrauding of widows and orphans, not giving a fair day's work for a fair day's wage. Right. So spending a bunch of time on social media while you're at work. Those two cry out to heaven. Right. And I think we've kind of focused in on this one because it's, because it's sexual, right? Like it's particularly related to sex and desire and feeling loved. And we can recognize that even in the disordered action, that if we take out just the disordered action, what are the two people they're seeking? They're seeking intimacy, right? And physical intimacy is only one that we need. We also need emotional, social, spiritual, psychological, intellectual, and all of the other forms of physical that don't involve genital sexual contact, right? Like a hug, proximity, right? Like we need these regardless of our orientation and our desires. And if we're not getting those in every aspect of our life, right, or getting those met through the aspects of our life, our different relationships, because they're all met through relationships with people, then we're going to seek to find them elsewhere, or to use one form of intimacy that we're easily able to achieve more than others so as to cope with it, right? So I think that's one of the reasons that people get hung up on it, because it's easy to see how it's connected, I think.
Yes.
And maybe even, dare I say, it's easy for us to see how we too, right, have maybe used sexual pleasure for ourselves to receive that affirmation, right, and how we're maybe disappointed in ourselves for it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. It could be other things as well. It is other things as well. But I think that's one of the big ones.
Yeah, no, definitely a lot to cover, and like you said, it's something we probably could talk a lot more, and I'd love to have you back on the obligation, and we could really get into some of those details, because I think we don't ever hear about that. Really, we don't talk about it. We kind of assume things, and we, make these presumptions about what the church thinks and what we should do, and I think we either lean far one way or far the other, but there's a lot of details in between that I think need to be be brought to surface, especially speaking of the martyrs you brought and related them, as far as why they were martyred and why they are the patrons of courage. I mean, that's an amazing story. So if you'll have me again, I'll have you on, and I'd love to talk with you. I appreciate you coming on, especially during the pledge drive here. If folks wanted to come on, find out more about Courage, what would be the best route to find you guys?
Probably our website, www.couragerc.org. Couragerc.org. On there, we have the resources for individuals who are looking for meetings, or family members who are looking for support. And like I said, the meetings are I didn't say actually. The meetings are support groups, peer support groups for individuals who are seeking to live out their life and maintain good, healthy relationships. We have those all over the world. And then we also have, I have this question about this thing. We have some frequently asked questions, and my phone number, and the director of Courage, Father Bachansky's phone number, as well as some of our other members. The phone numbers are on there, so that's an easy way to get a hold of us.
Excellent.
Along with our emails.
Well, thanks so much, Father. It was great seeing you, and I do look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you, Jason, for having me, and I do too.
Right, God bless.
God bless.
Did you know that 90% of older adults wish to stay in their home as they age? Aging in place has many benefits. It tends to improve quality of life, which in return improves physical health. Also, retaining independence as we age is critically important to our mental health. Hi, my name is Meredith Stignan, and I am the president of Harmony Home Solutions and an active parishioner of St. Patrick Cathedral. We are your trusted partner for aging in place. We strive to enhance the lives of older adults and their families by providing premier aging in place and universal design lifestyle solutions that increase safety beautifully. Now is the time to get your aging in place plan in order with Harmony Home Solutions. Visit our website today at hhsclt.com. Again, that's hhsclt.com. Or give us a call at 980-220-8821. Again, that's 980-220-8821. We want to help you live an empowered and beautiful life.
Hello, Carolina Catholic family. This is David Papandrea, founder and chairman of Carolina Catholic Media. Please join us during our 2022 Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive season, starting with Giving Tuesdays and culminating with our 36-hour Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon, June 22 through 24. Your pledge will help us better plan and allocate resources to evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ across our 7 media platforms in the Carolinas. Every dollar raised goes back into the Carolina Catholic operating and capital expense budget to grow our apostolate. When you consider the state of the world and the extraordinary times that we're living in, with a cancel culture, unprecedented media bias, mistruths and disinformation everywhere, it's clear why Carolina Catholic Media is here. Our mission is to communicate the truth of Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church to over 5 million souls in the Diocese of Charlotte and upstate South Carolina. With that comes a commitment to create diverse local programs from our parishes, schools, and ministries. Our vision is to bring everyone together as one unified Carolina Catholic community. Carolina Catholic Media is a 501c3 nonprofit. Your financial gift is 100% tax deductible. To sponsor or donate, please email me at feedback@carolinacatholicradio.org or call me at 800-857-2909. That's 800-857-2909. We appreciate your prayerful consideration to support us during our Catch the Spirit Pledge Drive. May God bless you abundantly.
And welcome back to the Carolina Catholic Media Sacred Heart Share-A-Thon Pledge Drive. Coming to you live from the Carolina Catholic Media Network studio here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Pledge Drive has been running from Wednesday until today at 6 p.m. Phone lines are open. You can call in at 1-800-857-2909. Donations can be made at carolinacatholicmedia.org. All donations are tax deductible. We appreciate you guys listening in and supporting Catholic radio here in the Charlotte and surrounding areas. It's so important and vital to keep the Catholic message and Catholic content alive and well. It's time for us to Catholicize, media and use the media for our advantage and to spread and enhance the faith. Joining us up next, we've had a great morning. We had Father Colin Blatchford earlier and Sergio Miranda from the Knights of Columbus. We now have a wonderful speaker who I'm so excited to have back. He's been at the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas starting back in 2013. He joined us for the first time, and he was there last year, 2022 Catholic Men's Conference. He joined us with Tim Staples, Keith Nestor, and our own Dr. John Aquaviva from Faith and Sport here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. He is a regular with his show on EWTN, Living Right with Dr. Ray. He is the host of a nationally syndicated radio show, The Doctor Is In, a clinical psychologist, an author, and most importantly, I saved this till the end. I looked at his bio on his site, and I think this is one of the first things, but I put it as the last thing, because I think, above and beyond everything else he is a father of 10 children. Dr. Ray Guarendi, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Jason, I got to tell you that Charlotte is well stamped in my memory with my kids, because for years and years we drove from Ohio down to Myrtle Beach. And when we drove down 77 just past Charlotte and we saw the stadium and all of that, we knew we were within several hours of Myrtle Beach, and that's when the kids were all getting excited. So Charlotte was really our emotionally exciting point. Nice. On the way down to Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know how it is when you're heading down out of town, especially down to the beach. Everybody, the car's packed and everybody's bouncing off the walls ready, and get those milestones that you can kind of see and know that you're getting close. So that's wonderful. Yeah, we see a lot of Ohio folks. That's, I guess, the North Carolina, South Carolina beach. That's where the Buckeyes head for a little R&R. We see quite a bit. Let me ask you this. I don't know. Are you familiar with south of the border? Did you ever take the kids to south of the border? on the way.
I didn't.
Oh, okay, all right. We'll have to catch that up later. It's a big glorified truck stop out in the middle of nowhere, right on the border. I guess called south of the border. It's kind of a Mexican themed truck stop, but it has rides and alligator farms and all sorts of wild events and things going on there, putt golf and all that. But anyway, my wife won't go. She's, if we ever go, she won't even get out of the car. It's pretty Twilight Zone-ish. So it's kind of creepy. Looks like it was trapped in the 1970s. So you can look that up south of the border. I'll give him a little plug there. But anyway, Pedro from south of the border, he stands there. It's a big image of a Hispanic man. He's got a big sombrero, and you can actually go up in the sombrero, and it's probably about 300 or 400 feet up in the air, and get a wonderful view of Nowhere Land, South Carolina. So anyway, but no, we appreciate you coming on, especially during our pledge drive, especially the Sacred Heart pledge drive. We're wrapping up today on the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and of course, Doc, the big news, right? You've heard the big news coming down the newswire today.
I just got a text from my sister and my brother and my wife about this. I don't know any of the details, Jason. What did they say officially?
So they have overturned Roe versus Wade, and they're returning it back to the states. So this is incredible. This is what the pro-life movement, this is what Catholics have been, and Christians and right-thinking human beings have been waiting for so long, and now it's going to return to the states. And I just saw something on a newswire that over 24 states have been waiting for this, and they are going to outlaw it in their states. This is amazing. I mean, what leaps?
Was it 5-4 or 6-3?
6-3. 6-3 ruling is what I saw.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Oh, that's tremendous. Yes. I was thinking, okay, they're going to just complain about the conservative justices, but 6-3 is kind of an overwhelming decision.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I know there's going to be a lot of celebration, and there's going to be just prayers, being lifted on high, especially the Feast of Sacred Heart. I mean, come on, our Lord, he doesn't just deliver, he hand delivers, so a beautiful day for us, especially in the midst, wrapping up on the Share-A-Thon here. And that's why, I mentioned, you're, being the father of 10. I mean, such a testimony to life, and not just 10 adopted children, right, Doc?
And 3 of them were at very high risk for abortion. Wow. And their birth mothers decided not to abort. Wow. One of them, birth mother, was 13.
Amazing. And
she was in her 7th month when she went to proceed. And she didn't realize what all the 7th month abortion entailed, getting the baby out and taking it out in pieces and crushing its skull. And her words were, as a young adolescent, "Oh, that was gross." And
poor baby.
She gave birth to my daughter, who is now 22. My one son, 2 weeks before he was to be born, birth mom was told, she was 35, she was told something is terribly wrong. We suspect there's a serious neurological malfunction that could have led to an institution for life. Now, I got to believe, Jason, everybody in that birth mom's whole world was against her giving birth to this little boy, but she gave birth to him, and he is now Sergeant G at Fort Hood. He's 29 years old. It was a shadow on the ultrasound.
Wow.
My other son, a birth mom was told, well, you are pregnant, but there's a blood clot growing next to the baby. As the baby grows, the blood clot will grow, and the blood clot will win, so you won't have to do anything. The problem will be solved. Well, the problem made it. He was born 2 months premature, 1 month intensive care, but he made it. He's now 25 years old, and he is probably the most involved in his faith of our 10 children. So you just can't play God, and we let the kids know how much their birth mom loved them to let them live.
Wow. Do any of your children, or do you keep in touch with any of the birth moms?
Well, that's an interesting thing you asked, Jason, because if you were to simply listen to the news or watch the Sunday night movies, as they used to be, what percentage of adopted children would you think would be driven when they are able to seek out birth parents?
Gosh, I don't know. I would think most would have would want to go down that path. 50% at least, right? I mean,
right. That's what most people say, 50 to 90%.
Okay.
You know what it actually is?
What's that?
10.
Wow. So,
because most adopted kids, if they grow up in a loving family, that is their family. That is
right.
who they've known and loved. As my one son said, he said, I can't even imagine being anywhere else, having any other parent other than mom and dad.
Yeah.
It was foreign to him.
Yeah.
We had 3 of our children did seek out birth parents when they got old enough. 2 of them disconnected with their birth parents because sadly their birth parents were as troubled as they were back when they gave birth, which is oftentimes the case, by the way. And then my one has some contact with her birth parent, but it isn't anything that replaces mom and dad. So that's kind of reflective of the overall adoption world in general.
Yeah.
I do want to say this, though, Jason. This is a little off our topic.
Sure.
I don't want to be known Carolina radio as your Raleigh killer. So here's my offer.
Okay.
Up until 11 o'clock, I would like to offer, if someone donates $25, that's all I have to do, $25, they can choose between one of my 2 books. The one is Winning the Discipline Debates. It's a compendium of common scenarios between parents and kids. And then I step into the scene to talk to parent, coach them through it. The other one is When Faith Causes Family Friction. That's when you get in a lot of trouble for being too Catholic.
Yeah.
With people around you, with your own adult kids, with your spouse, anybody.
That's right.
So, $25, you can pick one of those 2 books.
Awesome.
$50, you can have them both. I will ship them to you guys. I will sign them personally. That's my offer up until 11 o'clock.
That's awesome. Right, Doc. Hey, we appreciate that. That's wonderful. Get some incentives out there. Get those donations coming. Again, you can go online right now to carolinacatholicmedia.org and make that donation. Also, call in. There are operators standing by, 1-800-857-2909. All donations are tax deductible. We will be running through 6 p.m. this evening, but you've got about 40 minutes or so to take Dr. Ray Guarendi up on that offer. So we appreciate that. Doc, I was sharing a story the other day. I know we were talking prior to the men's conference this past March, and we were just, we were talking about children and cell phones and technology, and I admitted to you, and you got the opportunity to meet my son. I told you, he's 14 going on 15, and we haven't succumbed to the cell phone yet. And I think, I'm trying to think exactly what you called me. I think you called me a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, of course. But I tell you what, when the whole world is going over a cliff, a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal is the most sane one.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to hang out in my cave as long as I can. I mean, it's all, and we've had the talks with him, and it's going to take a lot of trust. It's going to. I want to. It's kind of like disciplining my child. I don't. It pains me, and I know that we hear that. We all hear that growing up. Oh, it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. I didn't ever really understand that until I became a parent, and not in just a physical way, but it pains me to take something away from my child just that they wanted to go do, or a toy, or, and of course, the physical side, no one likes that, but it pains a parent. Like, I don't want to limit my child. I want to give to my child as much as I can. And I know, my wife, especially, and women, that's especially women, they don't want to see their children in pain or in loss or feel neglected or think they're missing out on something. And so I've tried to explain, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to trust, but it's going to take trust, and I'm going to have to be able to know that, that this is going to be a good decision. So, to the other knuckle-dragging Neanderthals out there that are kind of sticking to it, because that, 14 going on 15, I'm really on the extreme because I'm seeing 10-year-olds.
Oh, you're 1%, Jason. You're 1%.
Yeah.
You're in the words of the 2-year-old conglomerate gathering, you're a 1%er, but in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing our best. We're trying. Especially, and you probably warned me, and anyone who's had teenagers has warned me, get ready. And of course, 12 to 13 wasn't quite so bad, but no, 13 to 14. Not that we're having any major things, but it's tough. It's tough. You have a child who is, feels physically like they're an adult because they look like an adult, and they're now taller than me. But unfortunately, that brain development, so there's a little lag period, isn't there, Doctor? When do you think that brain is going to be fully developed?
Here's the main problem, Jason. The teen years and the turbulence that a lot of parents say they go through, the shrinks have told you it's developmental. They have told you, well, the hormones are kicking in, the bodies are stretching, the kids have got 1 foot in childhood and 1 foot in adulthood, so you're going to have all kinds of trouble. Well, I believe that it is far more social than developmental. Think back. Go back to 1880 on a farm. When that boy turned 14, like your son, you were excited. He was strong. He was indefatigable. He could help around the farm. It was great. You didn't say, well, he's 14 now. I'm not going to get nothing out of him because he just wants to hang around with his buddies and they all get sappy. That didn't happen. Right. That did not happen. The culture was not there to say, hey, kid, your parents are out of touch. Hey, kid, there's a lot out here waiting for you, and you're finally getting old enough to realize you can grab it. No, there wasn't a culture like that. It was much, much, much more cocooned, if you will. So I believe that the teenage years are predominantly difficult because of the social factors that work against parents. When a kid's 8 years old, he doesn't see half the stuff. But when he's 14, he does. And it's like, hey, how did I get stuck with Jason? What a throwback. How can all those other parents be wrong and my dad be right?
That's right.
And so when that kind of attitude kicks in, they become a little more resistant. They become a little more obstreperous with your rules. So that, I personally believe that's the major factor in the teen difficult years, not so much development. Because at one time, you were an adult at 14. Yeah. Shoot, in many ancient cultures, you're a girl, you got married at 14. So there's this whole stretch of time where kids looking at the culture out there and saying, wow, look at all that stuff. And my parents are standing in the way. How can I either get around them or how can I butt up against them? I see that as the main factor, Jason.
No, that hits it. That's the nail on the head. The world, certainly wants to grab them, and I've said, and I'm sure you've said, and so many people, would believe that if you don't raise your kids, there are many, many factors and many others out there who will. The world will raise your kids if you don't, and we know we don't want that, and that just resounds with me. I remember years ago looking at a vocation and singing Compline night prayer, in an order with a group of men, and one of my favorite parts was at the very beginning of the Compline. It was fratres sobri estote et vigilate, and that comes from 1 Peter 5:8, and that is be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. And that's not just us; that's our kids, and I just think that's the way it is these days, and I'm going to be out there with the big stick, with my knuckle dragging Neanderthal hands, with rocks and whatever else I need to fend off the wolves, the lions that are coming after my kids. So anyway, well, gosh, great talking to you again, Doctor. I know we don't want to keep you, and I know you got a full day, and gosh, we got all kind of stuff going on down here at the studio. For the Carolina Catholic Media Network Pledge-a-thon, Share-A-Thon, and make sure you take Dr. Ray up for that challenge. Send those funds in. $25 will get you one of the books, and $50 will get you both, and he will sign them and send them directly to you. Dr. Ray, if folks wanted to, find out more about your shows, your books, what would be the best place they could find you?
They go to drray.com, drray.com. All the info is there. All 16 books are there. But as I said, Jason, up until 11 o'clock, Winning the Discipline Debates, or When Faith Causes Family Friction, 1 for $25 donation, 2 for $50 donation, all the way to 11. You just let me know who ordered them, and I'll get them off to you.
We got it. And we really appreciate your time. It was great talking to you, and I hope to catch up with you soon. You have a great week,
Jason,
Doctor.
thank you so much. And God bless Carolina Catholic Media.
God bless you, Doctor.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. This is Jason Murphy for the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas and the Obligation Radio Show here on the Carolina Catholic Media Network. Catholic Radio is live and on the air at AM 1270, broadcasting from Belmont, North Carolina to the Charlotte regional area. Carolina Catholic produces more local content than most Catholic radio stations across our country. Tune in on air, online, on demand, and anytime at www.carolinacatholic.org. Make sure to catch the 2022 Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas replays each Saturday afternoon starting at 3 p.m. You can catch Keith Nestor, Tim Staples, Dr. Ray Guarendi, our own Dr. John Aquaviva, and find out what the buzz is all about for the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas. Also, make sure to tune in to the featured men's shows on Carolina Catholic, Faith and Sport with Dr. John Aquaviva, airing on Mondays at 5 p.m. and on demand, The Remnant with Stephen Thomas, Bill Snyder, and Ray Haywood, airing on Saturdays at 5, and my show, The Obligation, which airs at 5 p.m. on Fridays. Catch all of these shows and more at AM 1270, on air, online, and over the app at www.carolinacatholic.org. Once again, this has been Jason Murphy. God bless, and Esto Vir.
This is the error of Western civilization. Modern Western civilization has identified freedom with freedom from constraint, and it denies goals and purposes and ends. The result is that the people of our Western world, simply because they do not know why they are living, they've never decided what they're going to do with their freedom, find it boring. They would like to surrender their responsibility. They're full of anxieties and worries, and there's nothing in life that is quite as boring as a purposeless existence. And simply because our Western civilization has not found the meaning and the purpose of life, simply because it concentrates upon freedom from something, our Western world is strong only in war and not in peace. It's strong only in war because it has the basic objective, at least, of defending our own existence. But it is not strong in peace because it has no unified faith, no universal goal, no universally recognized purpose in life. And so the modern world, instead of working toward an ideal, changes the ideal and calls it progress. Why we do not know precisely in our Western world why we are living. Why go on educating unless we know the purpose of a man? The essence of his freedom is not merely to be free from constraint, from violence. He must have some objective and goal and perfection in life. So our blessed Lord said, "It's the truth that makes you free." Namely, there must be some end, some goal. Believe me, the more you understand truth, the more you understand the truth of science, the more free you are to be a scientist. The more you understand the truths of the law of God, the more free you are to live, to enjoy life. The laws and the commandments of God are not restrictions of human liberty. Man can be virtuous only in a society where it is possible for him to be vicious. Man can be a patriot only in a country where it is possible to be a traitor. One can be a saint only in a church where it is possible also to be a devil. No crowns of merit rest suspended over those who do not fight. They might all go out to enterprise unheeded and alone, were there not some great moral issues at stake. And therefore God chose to make it possible for us to revolt against his will. And when he gave man human freedom, he will never, never, never to take it back. Never. Do you know what hell is? Hell is the eternal guarantee of human freedom. Free these people. That's the first thing that we have to solve in the world. And then our other problems will be solved. No other problem will be solved until we liberate them. Just as soon as you try to get a Christ without a cross, try to please everyone, then you have a sentimental, a romanticized Christ. You no longer have the man who can do anything for you in defeat because he's risen as the Son of God. We have only readers in the world. Why readers? Simply because they have not got enough in their own hearts to speak out. So something cold and dead on earth has to be read to man. In that moment, evil was strongest. It was panoplied in its greatest might. And yet, evil then went down to defeat through the glory of the resurrection. The great shame of the world is that we have the truth, but we have no zeal. They have zeal, but they have no truth. We do not want a Christ in our Western world whose hands are scarred. We want a lily-white hand. The result is that we have a Christ who does not preach sacrifice and discipline, a feminine Christ, the weak Christ, full of cheap moralizations. George Bernard Shaw once said, "Bars the way." Certainly it bars the way to selfishness, degradation, and decay. So the Western world has fallen away. I tell you, these men have not convinced me that there is no God. But they have convinced me of one thing. They have convinced me that there is a devil. Those who understand freedom then realize that the greatest peace comes from obedience to his will. And the greatest freedom that there is in this world is the freedom to be a saint.
If you enjoyed this episode and have any questions or comments or would like to come on the show and discuss your faith walk or any issue regarding the Catholic Church, send us an email at feedback@theobligationshow.com. You can also catch all of our previous episodes and all of the shows of Carolina Catholic Media at www.carolinacatholic.org. Click that donate button and we'd greatly appreciate it. There are also many opportunities to sponsor the show, the radio station, and the Catholic Men's Conference. Join Sensus Fidelium, Harmony Home Solutions, and Wallach Investments, who have pledged their funds to help keep Catholic radio on the air and relevant. Sensus Fidelium is a collection of Catholic homilies, apologetic videos, and other resources to grow in one true faith. They can be found online at www.sensusfidelium.com. Wallach Investment, LLC is a strategic moral investing firm committed to placing their clients' interests ahead of their own. Their mission is to be a force of good in their relationships to make the most of their clients' investment, giving them the time and confidence to pursue their mission. Contact Daniel Wallach at www.wallachinvestments.com for more information. For the Obligation Radio Show, the Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas, and the Carolina Media Network, my name is Jason Murphy. God bless and Esto Vir.